Good afternoon, everyone. Today we will present our result findings with Iwan Shaw, Zachary, Matthias Lucas, and me, Guillaume. Next slide, please. First, we will speak at our first strategy based on Glencore. Secondly, our reaction with our second strategy. And to conclude, we will show the answer received. Okay. Our first strategy was to contact our target company Glencore, which has over 9,000 workers on LinkedIn. We therefore contact some of them by presenting themselves as a group of researchers. However, we had no answer. In addition, not having a premium account in LinkedIn, so we were limited in our requests. Next slide, please. After, we also tried to contact Glencore by email, but we did not receive answer. And I even contact an alumni from my school, Paris School of Business, but he never replied. I don't know why. Now I will speak about our reaction, our second strategy. Next slide, please. After trying to contact our target company with no result, we changed our strategy for the dissemination of our survey. We target different companies, not only Glencore, that potentially have an online working environment in place. When we approach our contact, we explain our project and ask them to fill in a survey. And if they were interested in the result, we will let them know. We will show our result to the contact who reply to our survey. We use another social network such as Instagram to get a response to the survey from employee. That is how I share my marketing survey last year, and we got a lot of feedback. By the way, we share our survey with a startup because they must have think about it and are very open-minded. That's why I start talking again my last supervisor with a co-founder of a startup called Omiz. Also, I contact the intern who was with me in the company because he used telework and we keep in touch. So I think he will reply to me. Now I will let Zachary.
Okay, so in this part I will explain who we contacted. We received mostly responses from family members and friends. We received the responses from people working in education organization in South Korea, like employees and managers. We also received replies from people who worked in French education, people working for the French public services, a manager working in a French CAC 40 company. So the CAC 40 includes the 40 largest French companies. And as Guillaume said, we also contacted his internship supervisor from the startup Homies So yes, next please. So to contact them, we used mail. Also, we called them because they are a member of our family, and we used WhatsApp, like social network like WhatsApp or Instagram, as Game said. You can next.
Hello, this is Hewan, and I'm gonna present about research we got. For a week after first research finding presentation, we received a reply from our acquaintance and family about the survey using a Google research form. And like, as you can see, these replies, some of the answers are in Korean. Since some of our respondents are Korean, we thought that it would be easier for them to express their thoughts in their own language, so we let them do it. After we got these replies, we translated in English and we made start again to make it easier to see the research. Then let's take a look at it. First, we are looking into the survey for employees. We got 7 replies of it. And first question is, how many companies have you worked for? In response, 5 out of 7 people said they've worked for 1 company and 1 for 4 companies and the other for 10 companies. And second question is, how often did you switch companies in the last 5 years? In response of this question, 3 people said they'd never changed it, and the other 3 said they had changed it once, and the rest said 4 times. And third one is, what are 3 things in your company that keep you motivated? So as you can see, this list are factors that are considered keeping them motivated in their company, like developing knowledge, self-efficacy, outcome, atmosphere, or challenge. Among them, good salary, good relationship with college, and outcomes were mentioned the most. And third one is, do you like teleworking or do you want to work at company building after COVID-19 ends? Most of the people said they wanted to work in the office building. 2 of them wanted to mix of them, and the other said they wanted to work outside. Among the answers that he prefers working at the office, 2 answers comments that they prefer working from home, but they want to work at office after COVID-19. And the fifth one is, if you could change anything in your company to increase your motivation or loyalty, what would it be and why? So the answers to the question were the company's development, work-life balance, welfare system, fair evaluation and incentives of performance, location of company, and listening to their opinions more. And next one is, did your company provide you with equipment for your teleworking? Most people said no. One of the people who said yes mentioned that it was not provided for teleworking. Seventh is, do you think your workload or stress has increased since you work from home? The most common answer was a little bit or the same. And 8 is, are you able to differentiate between work and free time while you're working remotely? The most common answer was it was okay, and they didn't know. And 9 is, did you notice any depressive behavior like the feeling of loneliness or something like that since you work remotely? 3 of them answers no, and 1 answers yes, mentioning he felt a lack of sense of belonging, and others answers not personally, but he has colleagues who have closed themselves off, and even some who have stopped working. And 10th is, do you think virtual working environments will be continued by your company after COVID-19 is under control? Most people answered no, and the other 3 answers yes. And also they mentioned that they are already implementing teleworking and also argued that such a system had already been established. And last question for employees is, have you had any thoughts of changing jobs or companies during COVID-19 because of a healthy or mental crisis? Most of people said no, and the other 2 answered yes. And next, we will look at the survey results for managers part, and we received respondents from 3 managers. So first question for manager is, do you think that a feeling of loneliness perceived during remote work can be break on the loyalty of an employee? Everyone answers yes. And one of them added that the feeling of loneliness can encourage an employee to leave. And this feeling is harmful to the company because this person loses efficiency. And next one is, do you think there is a corresponding relationship between employees' loyalty and a virtual working environments? If so, why? 2 of them answers yes, and they mentioned the reason for that is that a person who likes teleworking can give loyalty when he or she does it. And the other reason is that there is no one who directly manages employees in a virtual working environment. So it could be a possibility that employees will lead to negligence. And the other one answered no. And third question is, what are the main obstacles for employees in a virtual working environment? The answers were a difficulty to distinguish between their privacy and their professional lives, and no smooth and fast business communication, and the feeling of loneliness and hard work problems. And the fourth is, what is the advantage and disadvantage of managing employees in a virtual working environment? They said the advantages are the possibility that employees are increasing qualified, or no need to check the working situation one by one, or saving time and efficiency. And also they said disadvantages are they have to demand a certain more legal or well managing, or difficulty for knowing whether employees do their job properly. And fifth is, do you think virtual working environments will be continued by many companies after COVID-19? And what are the reasons for that? Everyone said yes, mentioning that it has become a real option or strategy, and adding that it can reduce office costs as advantage of working environments. And sixth is, do you have any rewards like a 13th month salary to motivate your employees? If yes, have the rewards changed since COVID-19? One said yes, the other said no, and mentioning of no enough financial resources. And last question is, do you think that an employee you hire remotely is able to identify himself with the company as well as an employee who got hired directly in the company building? And everyone answers yes, and someone said it's possible because they help employees to identify themselves, or someone said it's because remotely hired employees are also officially selected. So these are the end of the research that we've received so far. And we're gonna go further and finish our project topic and the final presentation based on this research. And thank you for listening, and feel free to ask. And please ask us if there are any improvements for our presentation.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So you surveyed several people and you got the answers from them. But how would you conclude your survey results? What do you think about what they have said, and how does result influence your study about your topic?
I think based on we found, most of employees and manager are not seeing the virtual working environment as a good things. So good thing.
Let's get the class involved. There's several people, more than 15 people in our class today. I understand what this group was just presenting was talking about what motivates workers is in a large part of the survey. Before I start talking about what are the international research results saying this is the motivational methods, we talked about one expert says this is what motivates people, another expert says this is what motivates people, another expert says another thing. Before I get you to remember some of those and try to apply that to what we're talking about, I want to just check that you guys don't have your earbuds or iPhone buds or whatever in your ears. You are listening to me. How did I start the class today? What was the message I said just before the presentation started? Anybody in the class hear what I was talking about?
Well, you have stated that while you're presenting or after present, you have to make sure that everyone is interested in your topic, or you need to find out what they like, and you need to check if they're understanding correctly so that you can proceed your presentation.
Okay, that's close to what I said, right? Did you want to help modify his understanding of what was said? I think you might understand it because you had to repeat it several times and I interrupted you in the middle. What was it that the message was for anybody presenting?
I think actually the question, should I repeat?
Sure.
So we make sure that everyone's understanding, and during our presentation, maybe we need to ask some questions or
Okay, how many questions did you hear today? Not from me, but from anybody else, other than Jungho. I think Jungho, he asked the question, so good. But other than that, how many questions did you hear today? Okay, is that the mark they might deserve? We might be a little more generous than 0, but make sure you understand. Your natural habit, you know this is good, you know that's bad. So you do what you think is good. Even though other people might tell you research says something else is better. And we just had an obvious example of that. I started the class saying do it this way, and the group did it the opposite way. I'm not trying to point a finger at anybody. I'm trying to point a finger at everybody. If you're working and you have a problem at work, what do you think most people do? Do they actually go tell the boss, I need you to change, or I don't like you, boss? Or does a regular worker just quit? What happens to the people you know? Tobias, you're being quite reserved.
I think usually you would rather quit than confront any problems you have. Like, there has to be a very open culture, feedback culture in the company that actually anything can change. So most people will.
So you just saw you are a member of a group and you're at this level of society, you're at this age, you're at this interest in a certain thing. So in some sense, the people around you must share similarities with you. And we just saw a relatively big group basically just quit their job, right? They're doing things even though the boss is saying do it in another way. So if it was at a company, they'd probably end up quitting. Or at the very least, they would talk a lot to the president or something, and the boss would look bad. So what can we do about it? How can we overcome our natural ability to work is ethnocentric? Almost anybody on the planet, if you're lucky, you're ethnocentric. And that's bad. So if I repeat, ethnocentric means you know people can do things a different way, but because you don't really understand it, you just think that's different, that's probably strange, that's probably bad, my way's better. You're born parochial. You only know one way. So you do it just that way, and you think everybody should do it this way, and if you see anything different, you just think absolute strange. If you learn a little bit, you learn ethnocentric, and that's bad. So if we are educated, if we are at a good university, if we're learning that we have to try working with this other culture in work, in HRM, it's your job to make sure people are happy. You know people want to work, and you know management wants to be successful. They both should want to work together. But part of the survey we just saw, didn't you say 5 out of 7 people you surveyed changed jobs 4 times in the last 5 years? Something like that, which means a lot of people are changing jobs. A lot of people are probably not really happy. So what can we do about this? Who's online? Who can we check online? The invisible people. Oops, not that one. Zachary, what about you?
Yes.
Please answer the question. I assume he wasn't listening, he didn't hear, and he's going to come up with some comment about, could you repeat the question? Great, thank you, you're saved. Well, that's a very good question. Maybe the people online didn't hear. So Zachary, what he just said is, you know, a lot of people have trouble at work and they will change jobs a lot. They will find the job doesn't match them. And rather than check how to improve, most people just quit and change jobs. So the question was, what can you do? Since we are in this situation. We are doing these problems right here today. We experienced it. So how can we improve? As HR experts, it's our job to manage that. So what could HR people do? And the question was, should we try to focus more on the manager's view, or should we focus more on the worker's view? I think it depends on whoever, most people around you, whoever. You should focus on everybody. Yes?
I would say I'm going from the management perspective, since they're interested in not rehiring because it's very costly. So maybe from the very beginning, when they have to join the company, they could focus more on showing them what the company stands for, to really let them decide if they fit in the company, and maybe also give them the opportunity to talk up and talk about their problems to prevent them from changing jobs, and it's in our best interest.
Okay. So what I heard Pia just say is that since management controls the system and is trying to grow the system, and they know it's better to keep people rather than keep replacing people, they've already checked, it's a good person, we should try to keep them. The company should invest in trying, number one, to understand the people, to make sure they understand maybe the mission of the company, what the company wants. And then number two, which I think might be most important, is try to continuously check how people are understanding and relating to their work. So we need to ask you, what do we need to ask? In a classroom, what do we need to ask in a classroom? And then we elevate to a company. What do we need to ask in a company to make sure the communication is understood before somebody quits? So Carlos, any comments from you? No? Thomas? Maybe
Yeah.
comments from
Maybe we can ask the employees what are their expectations about their jobs. I mean, what do they think their job is about?
Okay, so I see what Pia said and what you said is at the beginning of the dating. So
Yes.
I don't know, what's the new app? Is it the Tinder app or something like that? When you see something on Tinder, they will say something, this is my mission, this is what I want. The employee will say, this is what I understand the company's about. And usually during that Tinder advertising phase, right at the beginning, everything's perfect. You haven't done anything yet, so you're not into the reality. I think the problem comes once you get into the system, once you get into the relationship. That's where you see just that picture isn't showing their character matches my character. The boss's communication style doesn't match my communication style. Or how I'm listening to him doesn't seem to match what I see him doing. And all of those things that are part of culture, most people don't even think about. Most people in the world, if you ask them, what is your culture? They will say, I'm a Canadian, I like maple syrup and I don't know, polar bears or something like that. That doesn't reflect me. Or if you're American, you'll say, I like McDonald's Big Macs or something. But that applies to almost many people in the world. It's not your culture. Your culture consists of many dimensions, and it's not related to just food. So how you communicate, how you're feeling, and what you're understanding, I think is more important, that communication aspect. And when you're in a country like Korea, where there's a very high uncertainty avoidance, people will automatically stay quiet and automatically do what the boss says until they're about to explode, and then they just walk away. They don't tell their boss, or they think they're not allowed to tell their boss, I don't understand, number one, or I disagree, number two is even harder to say. Same thing in a classroom. When was the last time you told me my teaching style sucks? Anybody? Do you remember in the very first class, I told you I would pay you. I will give you more bonus points if you tell me there's a problem or try to debate with me. I would reward you for it. And still, I think nobody even remembered that after the first date, except me. So go ahead. What were you about to say, Celinda? In his mind, sure, every boss does, right? Every boss says, if you work hard, you can get promoted. If you work hard, I'll give you a bonus. Every boss thinks that. They're feeling. Absolutely. There's problems with everybody. It's not just the boss. The first thing to look at is you. Who are you? How is your culture made? Your culture is not made related to McDonald's hamburgers. Your culture is not related to food. Your culture is related to your preferences, your personality. And then after you understand your personality and your communication style, then you try to understand your boss's style. I can very easily tell you what the internet says about somebody with my code, my personality code. And surprisingly, it's almost exactly correct. And I have, I think, 19 pages of small print, huge file of information that's just downloaded from the internet about me and my family. And it's almost all correct. And none of them met my family. It's just an online websites where I say, this is my code, or I fill out a couple of questions. They tell me my code and they tell me what is my communication style. So if you do that and understand what is your style, and then you understand your boss's style, you could probably much more easily see you can't communicate like this. You have to communicate, I don't know, like this. Or instead of like this, you have to change to adapt to that other person. Most people just think my way is normal, the other way is strange or bad. Otherwise, you just get depressed, thinking that I am bad all the time. But nobody's really the exact same. So let's take a few minutes to try to understand what is your style and what could you do if the boss has a different style? Because we just heard a group of your classmates, your peers, the same as you, they just surveyed and found most people are changing jobs every year. That's probably not an ideal situation, right? Did you have a question?
No, I want to say that I recently took a test from my life was IT.
Okay.
You said you can share in class.
I don't really understand your question. Are you asking me to show you what is my style and how can you work with any style to understand the communication details?
You are saying that you have better to understand your style, that I'm telling you that I already know my style.
Okay, do you know my style? Because I'm your boss now in some ways. Or if you have a job, did you know your boss's style? That's what I was trying to get at. Here, let me try to show those files. MBTI. Anybody else online? Do you guys have suggestions how you can improve the communications? I didn't hang up with Thomas. Do you have any ideas?
You mean the communication between employers and employees?
Yes, or anybody. Everybody in the world generally has the same issue. A lot of people, they just go to work and they will just put up with problems with work because they need the money. And they will think it's because of the boss. If they're lucky, their situation will improve. If they're not lucky, they will either quit because they don't understand or they will get fired. But most people don't usually look at what is that communication issue? What is that connection style, the personality style? Do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, I mean, nothing special. I mean, you can always try to be honest and direct and talk about the problems with the person, but I mean, I don't have any special solution. I mean.
Okay. Claude, do you have those MBTI results, especially the results about mine that we can show the class? Do you have that?
No, I don't have it ready now. If you can just give me a few minutes, I will try to find it and share it with the class. I'm sharing my screen now. For the student online.
I'm going to go back and talk about the idea of this week's topic. We've already the idea of what is a wage. People usually work for something. A lot of people traditionally used to work just for money, but that's the very first introductory, elementary view of what you can work for. A lot of people, increasingly the younger generation, are working not for money. That is just taken for granted that I'm going to get decent money. They're usually focused on some other intrinsic motivators, things that motivate them inside, what makes them feel warm and fuzzy and happy. Like I can make a difference, or I could, some people want a promotion, they want to become powerful, they can get a promotion at work after a certain amount of successes. Other people will work because they have the freedom to do what they want as they're working. Other people just want money. And I'm not sure if I talked too much about it last class, but one of the companies that usually pay the most are banks, investment banking companies like Goldman Sachs. And I think I was telling you guys, Goldman Sachs usually pays almost the most. And up until last year, they were paying their first year starting employees $85,000 a year to start with no experience. And now, because those workers are seeing there's so much work and so much stress that they're still quitting because the jobs don't match before they have talked to management about the misunderstandings. And so management of the world's smartest firms, the investment bankers and consulting companies, rather than try to understand what motivates them, they're just increasing the pay. And now the starting pay is $110,000. And some investment banking companies, they will start paying people $120,000 a year. But yet most of these people are still not trying to figure out, what do you want to do? Or what do you suggest? For example, me, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, and I want you guys to be honest. You were supposed to tell me you're bad or change. Well, I want to just analyze me. My family and many of my close friends, they think I am a freak because almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, I'm always talking about management. I love management, international marketing. I will talk about it in the bathtub. I'll read a book about it. On vacation on the book, I'll bring magazines to read about it. I love it. And I used to have a different job. I used to be doing some other work. And at one point, I also owned a restaurant and bar. At some times, the customers of the own bar that I owned, they would throw me out because they want to talk about dating or they want to talk about sports, and I'm always talking business. And so they would throw me out of my own place. So now as a teacher, I get paid to talk about it all the time. So I don't count how many hours a day I'm thinking and developing this stuff. Is that strange? Is that strange to you, Celinda? How many people do you know are doing what they want to do nonstop and get paid for it? I'd say, you don't know? What about you, Tobias?
Yeah, I still think it's kind of, I think that's like a very special thing, because I can find anything that 20 hours a day, every day on, because like I'm interested in something. I have to get something else. But I think when you're that interested in a topic, I think it's perfect when you find a job where you can do it all the time and you get actually paid for it. And actually no one, like, it's like really the best part.
Okay. I will admit, when I check my personality style, even the internet says my personality style is one of the most, it's the rarest personality style in the world. So I am a freak. I am strange. I admit that. So you guys are going to have a harder time than me. And we just heard your classmates just finished telling you they surveyed people, and the people they surveyed said They got a job and they change. The math seems to show every year, which is not a good thing. As Pio was just saying, management knows if you quit your job, it's very bad for the company. It makes them look bad. It costs a heck of a lot of money, and you have to start over. There is, some people say, a good side of it. If you do job hopping, what that means is you take one job long enough to grow your resume so it's significant enough, and then you're always looking for some other job, and then you take another job that's better match for you or better pay. But even that's kind of rare for very aggressive personality styles. So if you're the regular style, you need to focus on most of the environment is coming at you like a bulldozer. It's coming at you like a hurricane. You need to get prepared. And it's not the management problem. It's not the staff problem. It's the communication problem. You don't understand your own style and you don't understand the other style. It's not just the management style. It's not the company mission, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but it's the idea that when you are in, after you've accepted the mission, the communication with the people around you starts to show your style, your culture, your culture, your culture. And I guarantee you, your cultures, even though you're the same age, the same sort of level of society, right now, the same interests, your real culture is different. And you're only going to find that after you've been dating for quite a long time. But even then, you're not going to think that problem is from communication. When was the last time you broke up with somebody you're dating just because of what you thought was a communication problem? I've never, ever heard of anybody breaking up with somebody because of a communication problem. But that's the reality. That's actually probably why there's most problems. So start thinking, what is your style? How are you communicating? There are different styles of communicating. There are different personality styles. If you don't match that other person, there will be conflict. And wage, the base wage that we're talking about, it's not really that important, especially for your generation, that many of you take it for granted. You just assume they're going to start paying a good enough wage. And so you've had that wage around you, you're looking for something else to keep you happy. So practice, start in class. We have what, 3 or 4 weeks left? Practice now. How can you do it? We just had a presentation. How can we solve what they just did? Let's say every listener, there's what, 11 listeners in class and 4 people presenting today? Let's say the 4 people that presented, they are the workers. They did the work for you and you were the boss. Start. I'm not talking about paying $100,000. I'm talking about communicate so you guys are understanding. Yes, Tobias?
I think what might have been helpful is they, after each part of the survey report that they presented, they could have asked the students what they think about that. And then we have to kind of do a conclusion like this one sentence or something. And then they can say what they heard. They will have like a collection of opinions on the results. The results are objective, but like all what we see in it is like probably very different. So that might help them to understand the results.
Cho Hye-won, you're the worker. Did you just hear what your boss said? Or at least he was kind. He's trying to help. What he suggested to help you. Did you hear that, Cho Hye-won?
Yep.
I think that means no, she wasn't listening. How about Zachary? I think Zachary was in the group.
Sorry, Professor, but we really don't hear the student.
Yes. Yes. Can't hear.
Okay. So what?
Maybe use a microphone.
You need to speak up. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem with management. I will gladly help you because I'm always thinking about that. But although I would love to always be here to help you, I'm not. So could you try to summarize what you were just saying again?
Yeah, I was saying that it might have been helpful to just give, like, after each part of the survey, to give some time and ask the students what they think would be a conclusion of the survey results. And then afterwards, the group could show its own findings or its own conclusion, so that you always have like different perspective on the survey results and can find as many different opinions and different conclusions as possible.
Okay, hopefully that's clear to you. Is that right, Zachary?
Yes.
Can you comment on that?
I can't hear you, Professor.
Can you comment on that? Thank you. Can you please comment how?
No, I agree with him. Yes, we should do it for more interactivity.
I have the microphone and the speakers right next to me, but I didn't hear what you said. Can you repeat that one more time?
I said I agree with him. We can do it for more interactivity with the audience.
Okay, interact more with the audience. Great. You have an opportunity to do that now. What I'm showing on the screen now is just part of an example. It says 68 pages talking about mostly what the internet says who I am, with a little bit of information about my family. So this is part of the hint. Know who you are. Know how you interact. Anybody else want to give comments related to this? No? Pia.
I wouldn't even be able to really describe myself, so I find it hard to figure out how I should know which style my partner or conversation partner.
Okay. Let's go back to, where is it here? Last week, I believe last class, I showed you a file showing Goldman Sachs, one of the world's wealthiest companies that's paying people almost the most. And while I was showing a news report about how they pay the most, I was telling you another message about when you get interviews there, they do not ask for your resume first. They ask the smart company, they ask you to fill out this form. Where did it go? I thought I just had it. Here, this form. So they ask you to fill out the MBTI form to identify what is your personality style. There are 16 different personality styles. If you want a job at Goldman Sachs, you need to tell them what is your style, number one, and then afterwards, give them your resume. Because this tells you many, many things. 69 pages of things, and I did it just for fun, but I admit I'm strange. And so I'm not going to get naked in front of you, but this is how I work. This is my brain. I didn't modify details. This is straight from the internet. So I'm going to go through and show you. This is simple help. If you go to www, maybe I can make this a little bit bigger for you guys to see. Right, so if you go to www.humanmetrics.com or 16personalities.com, they will have a short quiz asking you, do you like to be around many people? Yes or no? Do you like to be early for meetings? Yes or no? And so you answer many of those questions, and just based off of your question, your answers, the computer identifies how you think, how you feel, how you work, what type of people you like to marry, what type of jobs you want to get, all based off of those questions. It's really interesting. And so, in addition to Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, several of our class students recently have asked me to help them with reference letters to get into jobs. And several of them applied for JP Morgan, which is almost the same thing as Goldman Sachs. And they do the same thing. They require every applicant to show what is your code. And JP Morgan also, I haven't had time to go through it, but they require every student applying to also go through this and tell the company, tell the HR, what is the results of this quiz also. I don't know what this is, but this investment banking company asks you to identify your humanmetrics.com personality style and this. And so ultimately, it will help you get here. And it's not just this idea. Most people, they want to have success and they try to decline this, but that's the hardest way to do it. It's much easier if you start here and identify, what do I need in half of this time? What do I need in half of this time? Or who is up here that can pull me up? If you work from the top and work backwards, work from the end result, you get a lot better results. And so just going to a company, hoping that the company mission matches you, which it's supposed to be important and I'm supposed to teach it, but in my honest opinion, missions and visions are crap related to the real world. What's most important is how people interact with other people. And so let's get on to it. And this is one of my kids, my wife, another daughter, another son, another son. My style is the INTJ. And so who am I? I'm going to maybe slowly torture you. The idea this week is to talk about wages. And I want to work backwards from wage. Most people will go to a company to work for pay. The highest level people do not. The highest level people often have $1 a month contracts because they get so many other benefits, like stock options that can make them millions of dollars. I've had a job where the company offered me $1 million in stock options. And it was my job to give many other staff in the company that same option. Do you think you were happy? Can you describe the work atmosphere 6 months later, after I gave that to many people? What do you think?
Maybe it would be similar, like 4 hours of
No, my company, they weren't slaves. I will admit it was a high-tech company and a lot of the people had to work in something like an oven. We were making semiconductor chips, and when you're cooking these computer chips, you're cooking them in an oven. So a lot of these people we would hire from universities would work close to an oven cooking computer chips. And so, yeah, it would get hot and you have to wear a special type of space suit so you don't get dust on the computer chips. So sometimes it was a little uncomfortable, but we would pay you to travel the world to learn. We would send a lot of our workers in Korea to China to have conferences to learn about things. Anything that any employee wanted to learn, we would provide them for free. In addition, we would provide swimming pool access, car driving access. We didn't give the free food and things like that, but it was a pretty good job. It was high tech, not investment banking. So do you think after I give you, you work for a year, at the end of the year, we identify these are the lowest level workers. They're At high risk, they're going to be fired. This is the middle number of workers. These people might get a little bit of stock options, but these guys, we would arrange to give $1 million in stock to them. You can't get that $1 million in cash today. You have to keep it and work for the company for 5 years. And after 5 years, you can exchange it for the cash or sell it and have that $1 million. But that's just your first year, you can get $1 million. So would you be happy with that? And it's a famous company. It's one of the world's highest tech.
I think I would be happy with that. But I mean, the only thing I could imagine with that is that it might have led to people and something, or being like, envious of the people who get the stock option.
Okay, so these people that almost get fired, you're saying they're envious of these people that get a lot of stock options. Maybe the middle are getting jealous of these people. Okay, good. You're starting to think about it. This whole idea, most people, most students just think of wage. And I'm here to tell you, wage, if you're thinking wage, you're thinking in a way that will torture you. Wage is a trap. You should not focus on wages. There's got to be something else to finance your freedom other than just wage, or you will be in the rat race forever. Yeah.
I think the stock option is good, but as many students, they don't really have finances yet, so they kind of rely on the wage to
We keep giving the pay, and the pay was the highest in the industry. The wage, the cash we give you every month was the highest in the industry. This stock option was a bonus. It was extra. Almost everybody I know that was working there, except the CEO, quit within a year. Every single person I knew quit within a year. So again, it's back to people work really hard to get a wage, and a wage is you should not focus on. There should be something else, because we had the good wage and we had an amazing bonus, and yet I am proof, and it's not just me, but everybody that I knew in the company left because it didn't match. And it's usually related to the communication. So please check. How much time do we have? We started at 3, right? So class is supposed to be finished. You guys all have this file. Everyone has this file. It's the student requirements, bit.ly/class requirements. If you go in here, and 3rd slide is talking about how you can grow. And then in the 4th slide, it starts talking about this be successful, but instead of a B, it's using a number 3. This link will open up over here, and inside here, slide 8, 9, 10, and 11, it's talking about your personality styles. And in here, this is me. This is, what did I say, 69 pages of what the internet says is me, and it matches almost perfectly. And so I'm going to finish the class soon, but I just want to show you a couple of things. This talks about my style. You can read it. We'll go through it later. It shows that most people with this style, they want this type of career. They give me career options. My son, my daughter, it describes my character. And what it's saying here is hyena. It says that I usually, when I communicate, I rip away the social niceties and I start talking facts, the real details, the real meat. I don't like to do just the regular social chit chat about things. And that's true. How I can start communicating with other people. Strategies. I think you were talking about how can you communicate with your boss if you only know you. this internet tells me I am INTJ, so I have that NT. And all of these other people can very easily relate to me because there's similar communication and personality styles. And when I start coming up to the NF style, these other styles are very different than me. And so I need to change for effective communication with people of this other style. I need to communicate based on just the idea, the concept, and the theories. My style is I usually look at what's the solution. And a lot of people just want to talk about venting their feelings. And so this is just one example. And it keeps going through it. You don't need to learn about me, but I'm just showing you how do I learn? I learn in a certain way. And it also, this is the internet tells me, my learning can improve if we do it this way. And my learning has a problem if we have it this way. You can learn about this stuff too. And it doesn't take very much to get other people to do this. There are videos that will show my whole style in like 2 minutes. And it's a very good summary. It's talking about almost everything you need to know. How do I love to strategize, hate inefficiency? I like to debate. Again, I want you to debate with me. I want to remind you, I will give you bonus points if you can make the class better or make me better or talk about how there's a misunderstanding. Anyway, there's lots of details about that. Again, only 2% of the population is my style. In the workplace, I don't like to share feelings. This is the internet saying this. And my wife saw that. She started laughing so hard, she started crying. Almost Peter Pan's, because this is absolutely true. Whenever there's a problem, she wants to talk about her feelings. And I get, stop talking about the feelings. This is the answer. And it makes her more upset. So it's telling how to improve also. There's lots of details. You can go through it. And this is a different style on how to help, how to work with them. Please go through some of this stuff. Learn how you can communicate who this guy is. All of it was developed. Almost all of you know of Sigmund Freud. He became famous. Sigmund Freud was a psychiatrist, psychologist 100 years ago. And almost everybody knows about Sigmund Freud now. Well, this guy was studying together with him. But he did not promote himself. Sigmund Freud did promote himself. And so this guy stayed quiet for a long time. But Freud's starting to get a lot of problems with his theory. And as time goes by, this guy is getting more successful, more famous. I think it's not just a fun trend, but you could go through this and learn about this. Many top companies require the employees to go through and say, HR departments, to be successful, the best HR, they start with this type of stuff. And then they try to get to know more about the communication styles between different people. That's what I'll just talk about is Psychology Junkie is another really good one. Check out Psychology Junkie in the internet. And it will tell you lots of interesting stuff. Anyway, class is finished. Any questions about this? Anybody else want to reserve your time of your presentation or show me your presentation and talk to me about how I can help develop it? Several students in the past, they had decent presentations. I was able to help them present it, not just in class, but out in international conference. For example, if somebody wants to work in finance, I can take them to a finance conference where there's thousands of people and you can present your conference paper or publish it and get a lot more exposure to the people you think you want to work with. Don't just do what other people do. Don't just sit in a classroom, hand in homework, and hope success is going to come in a golden truck delivered to your door. Start trying to find out how you can get there. Thanks, guys. Sorry for talking too much. So Linda,
Sean, did you notice that we have a student just joined our class recently? Ijat Bumaza. He's in this meeting today. Do you want to talk to him, or you already talked to him before?
the rest of the class can leave. I will talk to him about his project. I've already started talking to him a little bit before. So
Okay.
stop the recording.
Okay, goodbye, sir.
Bye.
Bye, goodbye.